Welcome everyone to our January Shotsukihoyo monthly memorial service. We have this every month, but you could think of it as a yearly memorial service for each family member who's passed away during the month of January. If you could please join me in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Namo Amida Butsu. So I'd like to introduce our order of service. I'll be leading services today. First, we'll do the Nembutsu Wasans on page 76 in our service book. And I've also mentioned that you can get an online service book at ocbuddhist.org. There's a link. Then we'll have a selected saying on page 13. I will give an English Dharma Talk. We'll close with that selected saying. Then there'll be some announcements in English. And then Reverend Dr. Wandra will give a Dharma Talk in Japanese. And then she will close the service. So please get your service books ready to chant. We'll begin with Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. We bring our service book to our forehead. Namo Amida Butsu, 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 Na Mina Jōbutsu no Kono Kata wa Ima ni je ko o hetama eri hoshin no
なくせのもうみょうを照らすなりナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブな知恵の光明はかりなしうりょうの所相ことごとくこうけうかむらぬものはなし真実妙に奇妙せよナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブな下脱の降臨きわもなし高速かむるものはみなうむおはなると述べたも妙道覚に奇妙せよナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブナモアミダンブなこうんむげにょこくいさいのうげにさわりなしこうたくかむらぬ ものぞなき何時義よ奇妙せよナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブな少女公明ならみなしぐしこのゆえなれまいさいのごけものぞこりぬひきょうえよ奇妙せよナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブナモアミダブなぶこうせゆえゆ最大一公園のぶと名付けたり三途の国安開くなりないおうぐお奇妙せよがんにしくどく平等せさいどおつぼないしんおうじょうあんらごくNamandavats, namandavats, 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 namandavats. Namanda.
Thank you very much for chanting. That was a little bit extra special chanting for Shotsuki in honor of our loved ones, the Nembutsu Wasans. Next, we're going to move on to a selected saying. I usually try to choose these so they have some relevance with the Dharma talk I'm going to give. So this is from Selected Sayings, page 13, number 1. He abused me. He laughed at me. He struck me. Thus one thinks, and so long as one retains such thoughts, one's anger continues. Anger will never disappear so long as there are thoughts of resentment in the mind. Anger will disappear just as soon as thoughts of resentment are forgotten. Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda. So this is a quote from the Dharmapada. This is the Buddha speaking. And I wanted to talk today about how we can try to change our thoughts. Here, anger is not really caused by an outside agent. It's our thoughts. And we hold on to these events and they become stuck with us. And so how do we turn our heads? This is the title of my Dharma talk. How can we turn our heads around? How can we turn our mind around? How can we really make change? We're thinking a lot about change right now. 2020 is over. We're hoping for a better 2021. We just made it through a New Year's Eve and a New Year's Day service. And so if we're going to have change in our lives, how does that come about? When we've thought a certain way for our whole life, how can we suddenly change our minds? How can we suddenly turn our heads in a different direction? So changing our mind is a difficult thing to do. We can try to do it with sheer willpower. We can do it with logic and reason. We can be overwhelmed by evidence and facts and a solid arguments without fallacies. But it's still quite difficult. It's the way we've always seen the world, and it seems normal and natural for us. Our opinions appear to be facts over time. It's just the way the world is, and we no longer question them. So another approach, rather than trying to change your mind directly with sheer force of will and intellect and argumentation perhaps from others and getting in fights, we might think about another approach where we merely change our perspective. We turn our heads not in a rational, logical way, but we look in a different direction. We look at evidence and data and experiences that we have never really noticed before. And you might call the first one self-power. This is an adjective. It's a way of thinking. We believe things. We know things are true. We've collected facts. And we need to really analyze situations, and we rely on our own ability to problem solve. But another way is to just change your perspective, to look in a different place, to focus on different things, to turn your head in that way. So maybe a 180-degree turn might be more effective in 2021 than just arguing with one another. It's really hard to change somebody's opinion, but it might be easier to help someone look in a different direction. And when we do this, we see things in a new way. The world looks different. Our situation changes. And this affects the way we think, can help us lose anger that's so stuck in our minds. So it's hard to find examples like this in our everyday culture, but I contend that the mechanisms that Buddhism uses to change our mind by changing our perspective is the same one we use in everyday life. That everyday Buddhist spiritual practice is around us all, everywhere. It's something that we can engage in all the time. Religion and spiritual depth is not outside of everyday life. And we should be able to find examples of these mechanisms in our culture. And I think we do. They may be hidden, but they're there in plain sight. So one of my favorite examples is from the movie, My Big Fat Wedding, My Big Fat Greek Wedding. It came out in 2002. It was an independent romantic comedy that really became a huge bestseller. It was a sleeper hit. It was the highest grossing romantic comedy of all time, and it was an independent film. So it kind of just caught fire. It grossed $241 million in North America alone, and it did that by never reaching number one at the box office during its release, not even once. And it's about a 30-year-old woman named Tula Portokalis, who's a member of a giant Greek family. And so this is her in the wedding dress. Her boyfriend comes from a waspy white Protestant family, and there's a lot of contrast in the film. It's a little bit fish out of water for him, and for her, perhaps a little bit of a Cinderella meme. But her family is very gregarious and loud and physical and hugs. And he comes from a kind of subdued white middle-class Protestant family. And so he's the fish out of water. Hugging and being boisterous and gregarious isn't something he's used to. But his name is Ian Miller. And the father of Tula, his name is Gus Portokalis. And so Tula is played by Nia Vardalos. Ian Miller is played by John Corbett. And the father, played by Michael Constantine, he's a very famous actor, Gus, he pronounces his name Ian Mila, which is kind of funny. So Tula's father, I just mentioned, is Gus. Her mother is Leni Kazan, a very famous actress. She plays Maria. She's here on the left in the purple dress. Above her is Gus. And then down below, at the very bottom left, you can just see her eyes and nose, is her aunt, her Aunt Vula, played by Andrea Martin. Andrea Martin is a famous comedian. She was on SCTV. And the way the story goes is Tula just turned 30. She works at her family's diner or restaurant as a waitress, server, but she really wants to learn computers. She wants to go to college. And in this Greek traditional family, they have a family business. It's kind of expected that you work in the family business. And why would you need college when you already have a job? So she really wants to go to college. She wants to take courses in computer science, which is always a good idea. And she wants to work at her aunt's travel agency. She wants to be a travel agent one day. But her father is very stubborn in his ways. He's not used to new ideas for women going to college and having careers. And it's tradition to go into the family business. So she's in a rut and she can't get out. She loves her father very much, but he's stubborn and he doesn't see things in the new way. Times are changing all around him, but he doesn't see it. And the interesting thing is his wife, Maria, she is very modern, and she really wants everything for her daughter. And she tells Tula, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And she says, but he's so stubborn, he'll never change his mind. And I think she tells her, you don't want to take your dad head on. You don't want to get in a fight. We need to turn his head. We don't need to argue with him and fight with him. There's two ways of being successful. And so I'm going to show you a couple scenes. It reminds me a lot of raising children. You can either take your kids head on, or you can convince them that it was their idea and that it's something fun, it's something they want to do. My kids, if I pushed on them to do something, they would do the opposite. So I've learned to kind of act like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. You know, if you wanted to pick up your room a little bit, that might help. Yeah, sure, if you want to do that. But if I demanded them to clean their room and I made a fight out of it, they kind of rose to the occasion, and they were even more inclined not to do it. So here they are in their basement. Tula is crying because she really wants a different life. She really wants to go to college. She really wants to learn computers. She wants to leave the family business, which is non-traditional, and she wants to work in her aunt's travel agent. She wants to become a certified travel agent. And they have this talk in the basement, and the mother says something really wise that really struck me. So this also happens in Buddhism. You listen to the teachings over and over again. You may not really quite have them hit you. And then one day you hear a phrase or a scene from a film or a comic in a cartoon, and suddenly it becomes real for you and you understand it intimately. And this happened for me during this scene.
I know what you want. You have, how you say, you have a spirit. Huh? You want to see things. You want to learn. I know, you're from my side, huh? Come on. Don't you worry. I'm going to talk to him.
My dad is so stubborn. What he says goes. You know, the man is the head of the house.
Let me tell you something, Tula. The man is the head, but the woman is the neck. And she can turn the head any way she wants. Hmm? Oh, my baby. No, cry. Don't cry. Come on.
So it's not exactly clear what's going to happen next, but I thought that line was amazing, that the man is the head and the woman is the neck. And so instantly I thought of Buddhism. We have our minds. I'm in control of my thoughts. And for me, Buddhism is the neck. The teachings are what turn my head to see life from a new perspective. So I think Buddhism comes at us that way. It's not going to win us over. The hardest battle ever would be to win us over through logic and reason. Those thoughts are entrenched and fixed and very difficult to change. But Buddhism is the neck. We listen to the Dharma, and our head is being turned without realizing it. And I want to show you an example of this in this scene. This is the Aunt Vula, Maria the mother, the father Gus, and they're going to talk him into letting her work at the travel agency because she knows computers. This would be a good start. And they make him think it's his idea. And they do this by turning his head through the neck. They don't argue with him, and it appears to be his idea. And another interesting thing about this is it's almost an expedient means. These two women have deep insight, and they know the solution, and they're helping the father see it without confrontation. So this is a very comical scene.
That's right. I make Taki go to the dry cleaner store, and now I have no time with him.
So, send Angelo or Nikki to the travel agency. You'll be with Taki at the dry cleaner.
That would be good.
That would be no good.
No good.
No good. No good. Because neither Angelo or Nikki know how to use the computer.
And that's why that no work.
No work.
Computer. I have your answer. Tula will go to the travel agency, and you send Nikki here to work for us.
I can't believe that. Wonderful.
Oh, what wonderful.
See, a man.
Yes. You're so smart. Gus. Oh, Gus.
So I always love that scene. I often think the Buddha must feel this way. He teaches us and teaches us and teaches us and turns our neck. And then all along we might think it was our idea, our insight. But it's the turning of the neck that leads us to insight. So this would be an other power. We receive the teachings, our neck has been turned, we learn gratitude, and we bow. And suddenly, aha, we have the answer. So this is this distinction, trying to find a translation in English that might work. Self-power sounds like a noun. It sounds like an effort, a thing. Other power, even more so like a noun, it sounds like higher power. And I think especially Americans, myself included, when I hear these words, I think of nouns. I think of things. It's a thing. But what's interesting is in our tradition, they were thought of this way too before Shinran Shonin, as nouns. But over time, in the Buddhist tradition, with Shinran, and afterwards, they become to be thought of as adjectives, as a description of how to think, a way of thinking, a way of practicing. So it's describing how we practice. It's not a noun. It's not the practice itself. So you might think that other power practice would be saying the Nembutsu, but it depends on the adjective. Are we saying it with our own designs? Are we thinking about it? Or are we allowing Namo Amida Butsu to turn our heads? So the former would be a self-power style of Namo Amida Butsu as an adjective, letting it wash over us and letting us turn our heads and see things from a different perspective. This adjective, this description, would be an other power, Namo Amida Butsu. And so this is the way in our tradition, with this common everyday example in a movie of two approaches, two adjectives, perhaps even two activities to engage the Buddhist path. So I'm not really sure we should worry so much about the nouns, the practice itself, but I think we need to concern ourselves with the adjective. How are we doing these practices? How do we conceive them? How do we conceptualize them? Is it the neck? Are we doing neck practices? Are we doing head practices? And I think in the other power tradition, we really rely on the power of the neck, of the Dharma, to naturally turn our heads, to see things from a new perspective, a brand new vista. And in this way, we could have an aha moment that comes from within, thanks to the turning of one's head. So if you could please join me in Gasho in the reading of selected saying number 3. Anger will disappear as soon as we have our neck turned. He abused me, he laughed at me, he struck me. Thus one thinks, and so long as one retains such thoughts, one's anger continues. Anger will never disappear so long as there are thoughts of resentment in the mind. Anger will disappear just as soon as those thoughts of resentment are forgotten. Namandavats, namandavats, namandavats. So, in a self-power practice, we can try really hard to remove anger from our minds. That is a practice in some schools of Buddhism. The other way to remove anger is to turn your head with your neck and look at things from a different perspective, and then anger will naturally dissipate. So I wanted to close the English service with an announcement for Dharma School. This will be the class meetings for January 10th, tomorrow. Fuji, 1st grade, Kiku, 5th grade, Sumire, 6th grade, Hasu, 7th grade, and Matsu High School will be meeting online on January 10th. I wanted to thank you very much for being with me. Next, we will have Reverend Dr. Mutsumi Wondra give her Dharma talk in Japanese, and then she will close the service. So again, please close the English portion in Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Butsu, Namanda Butsu.
皆様、新年明けましておめでとうございます。どちら様もいいお年をお迎えになったことと思っております。本日は1月の正月法要にお参りいただきましてありがとうございます。それでは合唱いたしましょう。ナモアミダ仏。新人の定まるとき、往生また定まるなりと、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏、ナマンダ仏。今日は1月にご往生された方々を思い忍ぶ1月の正月法要でございます。どうもお参りいただきましてありがとうございます。1月にご往生された方々のお名前は阿弥陀如来様にもうご報告させていただいておりますので、どうかご安心くださいませ。1月といえば、ご解散上人、親鸞上人様、浄土真宗をお始めになりました親鸞上人様の1月16日の法運行もございます。そして、私の個人的なことでございますけれども、私の父も1月に往生しております。ということで、皆様と同じように私も1月にはいろいろと父の思い出がございます。昨年からコロナによってですね、世界中の多くの人たちが犠牲になられて、そして多くの尊い命が失われております。大変心が痛むことでございます。残念にもコロナに感染されまして、そして、重症化されますとですね、ICU というところに隔離されてしまいます。そして、最後はご家族と直接会うこともなしにですね、亡くなっていかれる方がたくさんおられると聞いております。本当に心が痛む。そして、心から深くですね、その方々の辛い思いをお察しするわけでございます。そしてご家族としてもですね、大変辛い、愛しい家族をそのようにして最後を見たることなくしてですね、ご往生していくということは本当に本当に辛い経験だと思います。私たちは今まで経験していなかったコロナというですね、この感染病を通して今までなんとなく考えたくなかった自分の最後といいますか、あるいは生命の危機といいますか、それを身近に感じているのではないかと思います。私が生きるということはどういうことであるか、そして私が最後を迎えていくということはどういうことであろうかということをですね、自分の問題、そして家族のこと、そして私たちの命の危険とかですね、あるいは生きる意味とか生きる喜びというものをですね、このコロナを通していろいろと考えることが多いのではなかろうと思います。日本の歴史を考えてみますとですね、親鸞上人様の先生であられた法然様の時代も、そして親鸞様の時代もですね、大変、厳しい時代でした。で、この厳しいと申しますのは、政治的なそういう世の中がなかなか落ち着かないという政治的な問題もございましたし、またもう一つ大きなことはですね、コロナと同じような伝染病やあるいは感染病が流行った時代なんですね。それとともに自然災害、いわゆる台風やあるいは洪水やそれとともに飢饉といって、いわゆるそういう災害が来ますと 作物が大きくなりません、育ちません。そうしますと食べるものがなくなっていくわけですね。そうしましたら一般の人たちすべてがですね、飢饉の恐怖にさらされるわけです。たくさんの人が命を落としました。で、当時都であった京都の町にはですね、たくさんのそういう人たちの死骸がいっぱい街中にあったと言われております。京都の町を北から南に流れる鴨川という川がございますけれども、この鴨川の中にはですね、もう本当に数知れない、そういう犠牲になられた方々のご遺体がですね、積まれていたというふうにお書物には書いております。本当に厳しい世の中であったわけですね。今スクリーンでお見せしております絵がございますよ。これはですね、ライゴーズという絵なんですね。ライゴーズっていうのは来る、迎える、そして図というふうに書きまして、ライゴーズと言います。で、特に真ん中にお立ちになっておられます仏様が阿弥陀如来様です。で、阿弥陀如来様が25のご菩薩様を連れて、浄土の国からこの世にお越しになって、そして、最後の息を引き取る人たちをですね、抱き取って阿弥陀様の仏国土である浄土に連れて行ってくださるのだということを表した絵画です。で、京都の宇治というところには平等院という古いお寺がございますけれども、これは、平安時代の藤原頼道という人が建てたんですね。で、この藤原頼道という人はこの阿弥陀様の救いということを大変お頼りになりまして感謝されてですね、ご自分の最後には自分の指にですね、5つの色の糸、赤い色とか緑とか黄色の糸、そういうものをこう祝いつけて、その先端は阿弥陀如来様のお手々にくくりつけてですね、そして、私が最後を迎える時には、どうぞ阿弥陀様が私をこの5本の、色の糸でですね、どうか阿弥陀様の国に連れて行ってくださいというふうに願われたということです。そしてそのように強情されたわけですね。大変有名なお話というふうに残っております。ここでですね、親鸞上人様のお言葉をちょっとお聞きしたいと思いますね。次のスクリーンをご覧くださいませ。ここには今ここでの救いと言わせていただいております。浄土真宗のお祈りというのはですね、決して私が死んだ後の教えではないということです。それよりも今ここで生きている時にお聞かせいただかなければならないお祈りであるということです。ここに書いてございますように、信心の定まる時、往生また定まるなりというふうに書いておりますけれども、この意味というのは、信心の定まる、信心が定まるということですね。これは阿弥陀如来様のお願いであります。私たちに願われている。どうか私はあなたを必ず、救って仏として私の浄土に迎え入れましょう。そのためには一度なりとも私の呼びかけ、あなたへの思いに気づいてくださいと。それがナモ阿弥陀仏ですよということです。ですからその如来様の阿弥陀様のお声がけであるナモ阿弥陀仏を素直にいただいたなら、 往生はまた定まるんですよと。この往生というのは私が亡くなった後ということですね。その時にはもう仏様にならせていただくんだと。そういう仏になる道をお念仏を通して、そしてお信心をいただくことによって定まっていくのであるというのが親鸞上人様の教えでございます。で、下の方に書かせていただきましたのは、お念仏の教えに合うものは、命を終えて初めて救いに預かるものではありません。嬉しい時も、辛い時も、阿弥陀様の願いは、この私に働きかけられているのです。どのように最後を迎えたというよりも、どのように生きることができたかが大切になるのではないでしょうかというふうに申し上げております。皆様の先立たれた方々はそれぞれですね、素晴らしい人生を生きられたと思います。たとえどのような最後を迎えられたとしてもですね、その亡くなり方、あるいは死に方よりも、どのような人生を歩まれたか、そして全うされたかということが大切になるのではなかろうかと思います。それはすなわち、この生きているうちにですね、今ここに届いている如来様からの救いに目覚められたかどうかということになるわけです。そしてコロナで惜しくも往生された方々もですね、また家族に直接見取られることなく行かれた方々もですね、決してその最後のあり方、死に方というのではなくして、それぞれが今ここで根性に死なれる前にどのように毎日を生活されて、そして人生を終わられたかということが大切になるのではなかろうかと思います。浄土真宗のお救いというものは、決して亡くなった後のことではございません。先ほど申しましたようにですね、今ここに届いている阿弥陀様からの深い深いお慈悲の心、これが詰まったのが南無阿弥陀仏というお呼び声でございます。そしてそのお呼び声はですね、私たち、私、そしてあなた様、すべての人にですね、届いているわけですね。そして、この届いているということは、名号が私に届いているということです。そしてその南無阿弥陀仏を素直に聞き開いて、そして自分の人生の意味というものを考えてみる、思ってみる。そして毎日のお念仏の中で仏にならせていただく道を共に歩ませていただいているという、そういう深い喜びがあるわけです。そういう意味で、このように今ここでの阿弥陀様からのお救いに恵まれているということを本当にいただきたいものだと思っております。それでは合唱いたしまして、この日本語法話を終わらせていただきます。合唱。南無阿弥陀仏。南無阿弥陀仏。信心の定まるとき、往生また定まるなりと、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏、南無阿弥陀仏。皆様、 本日は1月の小月法要にお参りいただきまして誠にありがとうございました。どうぞ気をつけてお暮らしくださいますように心から念じております。This concludes the January monthly memorial service. Thank you for your participation. We appreciate a lot. And please stay safe and well. We'll see you again. Thank you very much. ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏、ナモアミダ仏。